what I presented to you the other time. I showed you that getting your PLS done, you need to get data. And the question is, how do you get the data? There are two ways by which you can get the data. One of them is that you can decide to get the data from an already collected data sources. And when I say already collected data sources, that will be more of a secondary data. There are two forms of secondary data here. You can get a government-based secondary data or econometrics. Econometrics is also sometimes called financial-based data set. You can also call them statistical data set. You know them. So you can use any of these things for your PLS. But in this class, my focus is to help many of you who want to do more of using the primary data. Primary data. And when I say primary data, I'm talking about you using what we call questionnaires or surveys. Questionnaire responses, survey responses. So that is what I want to teach. And more importantly, I want to teach those who have never used surveys or questionnaires before. How do you design a questionnaire? How do you distribute it? And how do you get the responses? And when you get the responses, how do you analyze? So that's the focus of today. Once again, as I said, I'm not saying that you cannot use secondary data set for PLS. It can be used. Like for somebody like, let me give an example, like Solomon. Solomon has a data set or a database, which is purely secondary, and we are going to use that for the PLS. Is acceptable. But as far as this class is concerned, I want to teach those who want to, one, design questionnaires, and two, use the questionnaire to collect data. And then after collecting the data, you use the PLS. The PLS SEM, or the SEM in this context, is the data analysis tool. So that's what I'm going to teach today. So I'm going to take you from the scratch and then help you out. Once again, as I mentioned, this is part of the structural equation modeling, because without data, your work cannot go on. Okay, so what's the first step? The first step is to look for what we call literature based on your topic. So based on your topic, you need to look for what we call literature. And where do you get the literature from? So many a times what I've seen is that people just come up with survey. As to how they develop the survey, sometimes you don't even know where they got the information from, and they develop the survey or the questionnaire. You don't have to develop your questionnaire like that. You need to go and search for data. So if you remember, I put it on the page that I'm going to help you know how to do what we call literature search. So I'll take you straight to the point. There is a popular, well-known search engine. It's called search engine. It can also be called database. It can also be called bibliographic source, whatever you want to call it. And it's called the Google Scholar. The Google Scholar. We have others. We have others such as Scopus. We have Web of Science. And then we have EBSCO's host. We have PubMed. We have Science Direct. We have ProQuest. All these are databases where you can search for literature, and based on the literature, you use it for your survey development. So based on, once again, it's based on your topic. So I'm just going to come up with something. and then we all use that. So once again, we have different types of databases. We have Google Scholar, so you can take note, Google Scholar, Scopus, Web of Science, EBSCO's Host, PubMed, Medline, and so many others. The reason why I'm showing you Google Scholar is that many of you have access to Google Scholar. And the other ones, many of you don't have access to. Google Scholar, because Google Scholar is more like, it's free, you have easy access to it. Even though the Google Scholar also has its own limitations and challenges. But as far as this class is concerned, I recommend you use Google Scholar because everyone has access to that. Later on, when you start your PhD or master's in a school where they have access to other databases, it is always good for you to set through all the databases and retrieve the most relevant papers before you continue on developing your questionnaire. So I'm going to use this Google Scholar here. So let's assume that I'm just trying to work on a topic. In this case, I'm going to use a paper I wrote some time ago about green finance and green building. Okay, so I'm assuming this is my title, or this is something I want to work on, just like how I have given all of you. I've given all of you topics. So let's assume this is my topic. So just for example's sake. So from your end, you do the same. So this is my topic, and my topic is on green finance and green buildings. Green finance and green building. That's my topic. So that's my topic. Good. So if your topic is about green finance and green buildings, you need to first, out of the topic, look for what we call keywords. You need to retrieve out of the topic what are the dominant keywords, or what are the dominant words in the topic. Hey, Thomas, can you? Sorry about it. Okay, so in this topic, the dominant words here are green finance, and then another one is green buildings, right? So if I'm going to do a literature search, if I want to get articles on this, I come to Google Scholar, I put in this, and then I click on search. When I click on green finance, so based on the dominant words, green finance and green building. So if you have realized, when I sent you the email or the emails, I added keywords. Many of you, especially those of you that have worked on your topics, I added keywords. So when you do a search, these articles will come down, or it will come out. So these are the articles that people have written on green finance and green buildings. So all these articles are relevant articles. And as you can see from here, this is the first page, you can go to the second page. You can go to the third page. You can go on to the fourth page and the rest. There are two challenges here. One, some of the articles, you'll be able to open them. You can get access to them, and some of them, so you'll not be able to get access to them. In situations where you see some articles that are relevant, that you can't have access to them, two things. You can either contact me or contact someone, or you can contact your school. I mean, when I say your school, I'm talking about if you are in KUSC, for example, or you are in Legon, or you are in UMAT, or any other school, contact someone who can download. Because, for example, this article, I think you may or may not, I'm not sure, depending on where you are, you may or may not get access to the article. I mean, when I say access, you may not be able to open it. It may not be possible that you can open it. So if you can't open it, what you have to do is that you need to contact someone who can get the article for you. Okay, so that's the first step. So get relevant articles. So the question then again is, can I limit the search? The answer is yes, you can limit the search. I mean, when I say the search, look for most recent articles. Most of the articles that sometimes people use in their in writing up their papers are a little bit old and they are not relevant to contemporary discussions. Therefore, if you are writing an article, your articles should be, unless the paper is very important and it forms the foundation of some discussions like maybe theoretical or data analysis aspects, I recommend you use papers which are like 10 years or 5 years. So here, in terms of the Google Scholar search, I can limit my search by, let's say, limiting it to the last 5 years. The last 5 years, I'll search and it will give me the most recent papers. The most recent papers. Most recent. Okay, good. So, or if you are going to do it, let's say 10 years, the most recent papers. So this is how you go about it and get the most relevant papers. So focus on the most recent. And out of the most recent, you have to go through the outcome, which is the results outcome or the search outcome, and then get the most relevant. Okay, what's the next step? So now we know the most recent, most relevant paper. What next? The next thing is to save them and transport them. And that will bring us to another thing, which has to do with the referencing. All these papers that you search for them, you need to save them. You must be somebody who will be creating folders and be saving articles. Either you save the articles or you save their titles, one of them. And I'm going to show you how to do it now. So let's assume this is the articles that I have searched for. Now I want to save the most relevant ones. So what do I do? So what I will do is that you can click on save. If you have seen save, is somebody asking a question? Somebody raise a
Yeah,
question.
Doc, I can't see your screen. I don't know if I'm the only one. Oh,
Please, is others also not seeing the screen or something?
Yes, me too, please.
I can see the screen.
I can see the screen.
Are you using a laptop or your phone?
I'm using my phone.
Yeah, phone. You may not see. I mentioned that everybody should use. You should use your distance because the phone may not work. If your laptop is by you or your computer is by you, and join by that. I'm joining with your laptop or your distance. I think that would be helpful because the phone. I think the phone. You may not.
All
Uh,
right. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. Okay, so the next thing to do is that you need to save the search outcomes. And before you save the search outcomes, as I mentioned, try and at least read the abstract. So if I open this article, you read this abstract and you confirm that I think this paper will be relevant to what I'm searching or I'm doing, I'm researching into. So you read the abstract, okay, this paper is important, or I want to save it. So if you want to save it, you click on save, and the save, it will open this thing for you. You need to create what we call folder. I have done so many things, so I have a lot of folders. Sorry about that. So let's assume that so let's assume that this is my folder. I click on that. So that means you have saved the article into that folder. Now I come to the second article. I also check the abstract, and maybe I read through, I confirm that this paper is also important to me. I will save it. I'll go and look at where my folder is and save. Now go to the next, check. I'll read through the abstract, and I'm just assuming, I haven't read, but I'm just assuming that it is. I'll save this one as well in the folder. Now I come to the next one. Maybe I think it's important. Let's assume that it's also important. I save this one. Yeah, so now I have some articles I have saved. So how do I transport them and save them in a form of Excel and also into my reference manager? So two things. You can click on my library. Can you see on here, my profile, my library? You click on my library, and when you click on my library at the top here, you come to the left-hand side and look for the folder. So in these folders, you can see I saved how many articles? 1, 2, 3, 4. So all the 4 articles are in that folder. Okay, so on your left-hand side, you look for the folder. I have so many folders, so that's how come it's a lot. But if you are doing yours, I don't think yours will be many. So save them. Great. So what's the next step? The next step is to export. There are 2 ways by which you export this. One is to export by CSV. CSV, it will come in a form of Excel, so I'm going to do that. So with this one, I recommend that you save it. You save it as a normal Excel. I'm going to open my Excel. Okay, so I have my 4 articles, or the articles I saved here in a form of Excel. And the details are here. So the articles I saved. And this one, you can save it into your folder, the folder that you are going to put everything concerning this research into. You save it. Okay. And then later on, you can beef it up. I mean, when I say beef it up, I mean, if you get additional articles, you can add. So I think this is okay. So you save this. Now let me take you to the reference manager. With respect to the reference manager, what you can do is that with respect to the 4 articles I have saved, you click on export and you choose the type of reference manager that you have. One thing about Google Scholar is that Google Scholar allows for deep test, EndNote, and RefMan. Okay, but if you are not using any of these reference managers, which is the software, then what you have to do is that you keep the CSV, which is in the form of Excel, and then feed whatever reference manager that you are using. You feed it with what you have. So, for example, if you are using Mendeley, or you are using Zotero or any other reference manager, you feed that reference manager with this information. I have EndNote, so I'm going to open EndNote. I'm going to use EndNote. And those of you who have access to EndNote, you can do the same. So you click on this, and when I open my EndNote, all the articles will automatically open in there. So it's opening. So you can see on the screen that all the 4 articles will just automatically open in my EndNote. And from here, I can use them for my references. Okay, so I'm just going to do some few examples to show you how to use this in EndNote, just few. Because we don't have time, I'll come back to the survey then again soon. So let's assume that you write something, Kofi is going to school, and you want to cite. So if you are using EndNote, you just put the cursor on this, and then you cite it. Yeah, so those of you who want to know more about this, I think I have a video on this on my YouTube channel, or you can also look at other YouTube videos from other YouTubers. They have explained how you can use either EndNote or Mendeley or any other reference manager for your work. And in this class, I recommend that everyone try your best and get one of the reference managers for your work, because as you can see from here, if you use EndNote, for example, once you put in the in-text citation, it will automatically give you what? The details of the reference on the reference list. Okay. So it is better than you using the manual reference, because the manual reference in many cases, people either one tend to miss some of the references. Yeah, I'm just writing something. I'm just trying to help you with how to use this. So let's assume that so please use one of the learn to. It will be somehow new to you, but do your best. Do your best to learn how to use one of the reference managers. It will make your work easier. Because sometimes not sometimes, in most cases, you end up writing your article, then you have to come back and go and search for all these references and put them in a better position. And in most cases, we tend to miss most of them. We miss them. Either you miss some of the in-text or you miss some of the things on the reference list. So as you can see here, if you are using EndNote, for example, if you put in your in-text reference, it will automatically cite. And anything that you change, so let's assume if I want to take this it will automatically go away. Okay, that makes it better and easier than you finish and then you be going up and down searching for the article. Is somebody asking a question? You can go ahead. I don't know. Theophilus, or okay, Theo.
Yes. Please. Good evening. I
Good
can
evening.
see
Yeah.
your.
Are you using a laptop or a phone?
I'm using a laptop.
Really? Then try again. Yes, Kofi. Kofi, come. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw kind.
You can see. Okay, let me try
And see,
again.
even though so
Okay, I've done the sharing again. Can you see? Can you see my screen
No.
now or no?
no.
Still.
Yes.
Maybe the others have
Maybe
to try it.
No, please.
if the person has some other window open, but when you join on Google Scholar, then you should be on that page, the web page where the Google, sorry, I said Google Scholar, Google Meet, the Teams. If you
Okay.
open another
So check.
window, you will not see.
I can now.
It will minimize at the corner somewhere.
So
Yeah.
maybe it'd be better you take
Check.
you
Please
take
check
notes and
again.
then later you try. And then you leave the
Yeah.
link.
You
But
have
I
to send
think
the screen
I
all
think
the way
majority of
because
you can see, right?
Yes, I can
yes,
see. But I'm taking notes.
all
I'm not
the
using them.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
I can now see that.
You can now see. Okay, good. So please, if you can't see, try it again. Okay. Okay,
But
good. So
those who couldn't see have to help us.
yeah, I'm just going to do a quick recap
Yes.
so once again, the first step is search for articles in the Google Scholar
Okay.
and then save them in a folder. I've shown you how to create a folder. To get a folder, what you have to do is that you click on save. A dialog box like this will open, and then normally create something will come here, create new. So you create it and then you put your name, either your name or whatever folder you want to give it. And then you start saving the articles in there. Then once you are done saving them, once you are done, is there anyone who is asking a question? Please
So,
go ahead.
sorry to interrupt. I want to ask if you've moved your screen to the Google Scholar end, because I want to know if.
Yeah, my screen is on the Google Scholar. Can you see the Google Scholar or you can?
I can only see the, I think, imported references. And I
Amazing,
think
because I'm
I
sharing
can
my
see
entire.
Yeah, I think it might be the network issue. If the network is slow, your screen will load slowly.
Yeah, so if you follow, it's the network, could also be network related issues. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, so you save them and then you put them in a folder, and once you get a folder, you come to my library. On my library, on the left hand side, you look for the name of the folder. Okay, and then the name of the folder, you just in this case the folder is called class 2026, and then you open it, you check whether indeed the articles that you saved, they are the ones that are there, and then you click on export. With export, you can export it to Excel in the form of CSV, or you can export it to BibTeX if you have BibTeX or RefMan or EndNote, one of the reference managers. You click and then you export. Okay, you can also do it manually, or you can generate them in your reference managers. And as I said, I want to encourage everyone to learn how to use one of the reference managers. It will make your life easier compared to you doing what we call manual referencing, because over the years, that's what we were all taught, or that's what we all know, or we have known for years. The manual referencing is very hard. And in most cases, manual references, you end up losing so many things. Either you either lose some of the things in the in-test, or you lose some of the things on the reference list. For the sake of time, I think the reference, that's okay. You learn it on the YouTube and all that, because if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go into details. It's going to take us a whole 2 hours for us to do this. Now, let me come back to the survey. So once again, I'm assuming that all these articles are important. So what do I do? What I have to do is I have to open them and read them. And when I read, I have to extract important information from them. So in this case, I'm going to just use my article. So let's assume my article is the most important article that is related to this topic that I'm working on green finance and green buildings. I'm just using that. It doesn't mean you have to base on, and I'm not encouraging anybody to base on only one article. Don't extract your information from only one article, because you can be tempted, or you'll be tempted to just focus on only one article and extract exactly the same information from that. That's a form of plagiarism. You are kind of trying to do copy and paste. And in a way, it's a lazy way of trying to just get some things and go away. That's not the best. The best thing is for you to read a number of articles. I would recommend a minimum of 5 articles. You have read them, not like you have just took information from them. You have read the 5 articles from the top to the bottom, from the top to the last end. Okay, you have read the article. You have read the articles, and based on the articles that you have read, you extract important information from them. Okay, so I'm not going to worry people too much. So in this article, let's assume that I have read a number of articles, and I come to this article and I see that I can see drivers or success factors of green finance on green buildings, critical barriers to green finance in green buildings. And let's assume that I'm doing a research on, let's say, the barriers of green finance on green buildings. Or my research topic is on drivers of green finance on green buildings. Okay, so this is good. Is there anyone who wants to ask a question? Yes, Kim, please go ahead.
Yes, look, I use Mendeley, and so
Yeah,
I wanted to find out if it is better to download the paper and then import it to your Mendeley.
yeah, I think it would be better. You learn how to. I think Mendeley too, you can update some of them directly.
Yes, Mendeley can update, but looking at what we did on Google Scholar, Mendeley is not there. So I usually download the paper. I download the paper and then I add it to my Mendeley reference list.
Good. So do it. Yeah, do it. Yeah, I agree. Do the same.
Okay.
Yeah, do the same. Okay, good. So let's assume you have this. And this is just an example. Once again, I want you to really say this so that nobody will be like, okay, then I said this, therefore that's why I'm doing this. This is just an example. And in most papers, you may not see a table like this. Most papers, you won't see a table where the factors or barriers have been listed. No, they will come in the form of a normal passages or discussions like this. And then out of the things that you read, you pick something from them. Okay. So, but in this case, like we have a table, right? Okay, so let's assume I have this table and I want to design a survey. So I have a survey that I've already designed. I design a survey. Yeah, so I have this survey. Okay, so this is how a survey look like. Or this is how a questionnaire look like. Right? Good. So let me take you through the questionnaire, how to design it. So normally, after you have established that you have your factors or your variables or whatever, now you need to put it into a form of a survey. So the survey, it is always good you have something that we call a preamble, something like an introduction. The preamble can contain two things. One of them is about, the preamble should give us a description of what your study is about. You can't just put a survey out there and there's no introduction explaining what the research is about. I mean, it should be simple, brief, go straight to the point. So this is just an example, okay? Once again, I'm just trying to mix some things together, but at the end of the day, it's almost we are going to the same direction. So as you can see here, I've given a small description. According to the World Bank, more than 95% of enterprise across the world are classified as small businesses. Small business enterprise represents a growing group of enterprise, so and so and so. So like a small description, however, they have issues and blah, blah, blah. And this is why this research. So a brief description. And then anyone who is reading or anyone who is going to respond to this questionnaire will understand that, oh, okay, so this is what the research is about. Oh, okay. Amazing. Oh, then I'm happy. I want to be part of it. So always give something. Then nowadays, another important thing, which has also become very important, has become a key part of designing a questionnaire, is what we call the informed consent. The informed consent, this is where you tell the people or to the potential participants that this survey will not go against any confidential information they share with you. You need to assure them. And then you have to tell them the time. How many minutes will this survey take? Is it going to be 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes or something? You have to let them be aware. And then you also, any other ethical issues. So the informed consent is about trying to get them agree to the survey so that they will not breach any ethical principles. They will not, and you the researcher will also not breach, the two of you will not breach any ethical principles. So you tell them that any confidential information or their responses will not be used against them. You tell them that the survey will take, let's say, 10 to 15 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever. You have to let them know, or 5 minutes to 10 minutes. And then any other thing. Or other ethical principles. There's no time for that. But if you want to read more about ethical principles, you can read about Helsinki Declaration. Okay, or based on the university that you are in, they have their ethical principles, or there are universal ethical principles. You can even Google just ethical principles on research, conducting research. Okay, because it has become a key part of survey now, because sometimes you collect a survey and somebody will come back and say that, oh, I didn't agree to that, they forced me to respond to it, and blah blah blah, and so forth and so forth. So to help you out, currently I'm collecting data, and I think some of you are either aware of it or something. Let me try and get this. So those of you who are part of the survey that I'm collecting currently, you can see that you see the background information, and then from the background information, it takes you to the consent form, where I mentioned that the survey will take so and so minutes, and then it will not have any impact on them. And if they want to withdraw, they can withdraw at any point in time, and so forth. It depends on the kind of ethical principles that you have established for your survey. Okay. Once you have that, the next thing to do is that you need to come to the main sections of the survey. Normally, the first section of the survey will look at basic information about the potential participants, also called the respondents. So, like, what is your highest educational qualification? Then you list. Which sector are you in? How many years have you worked in your organization or in the industry, or the thing that you are researching about? How many years? This will help us to know that the person has experience, practical years of experience on whatever you are dealing with. What is your area? What is your position? How many projects have you undertaken, and so forth? You see? Okay, so ask basic questions about them. The next section, which is the most important section, is where you have to put in the variables that you are dealing with. So, for example, if I'm dealing with the barriers or the factors of green buildings on this, so here, factors influencing green finance on green building. So I put this one here. Then you have to put a statement. With a statement, you need to also help us to know, because the surveys that we are using in this class are structured, close-ended. It is always good to add what we call Likert scale. To add the Likert scale. The Likert scale will help us to know their degree of agreement to the variables. Okay, so the question that somebody will ask is, what is the best scale? We have 1 to 9. You can use 1 to 9. You can use 1 to 5. You can use 1 to 7. You can even use 1 to 4 and even 1 to 3. But the reason why I always, or in most cases, I encourage students to use 1 to 5 is that is the one that most scholars use. 1 to 5 tend to be the one that most scholars use. And also, if you compare 1 to 5 to 1 to 7, 1 to 9, if somebody is going to respond to something, if I have 1 to 5, I prefer to respond to the thing on 1 to 5 compared to 1 to 7 and 1 to 9. Because 1 to 9 and 1 to 7, the scale is too wide, it's too big, and so forth. So choose the scale that is okay for you. It doesn't mean that it's only 1 to 5 that is acceptable. 1 to 7 is acceptable, 1 to 9 is acceptable. So choose the one that fits into yours, and always get a reason, because some of the reviewers will ask you, why did you choose a Likert scale of 1 to 5, not 1 to 7 or 1 to 9? So get a reason for that. Okay, good. So as you can see here, I have my variables. So here, if I'm going to put the factors, so I'm just assuming that these are some of the factors. I have all my factors, I've put them here, and the scale here, right? So I have this. Then if you have other sections, you also put a section, you do the same as we did for the second section, and so forth. And then after that, you tell them thank you, and you are done with this. Good. So this is the paper-based Microsoft Word-based questionnaire. Now, what next? Two things. Either you can print this one, get a hard copy. I'm talking about paper-based. You turn it into a paper-based by going to a printing press or a printing house or a photocopy house or whatever, and get this thing printed. You print as many as you want to distribute. You print as many as you want to distribute. You print them. But before the printing, I will recommend that when you complete designing your questionnaire, it is always good you do a little bit of what we call pilot testing. With a pilot testing, you need to give this questionnaire to some experts. You need to give the questionnaire to experts within the field, within the area in which you are conducting the study. So, for example, if your study is about construction management or project management, then look for experts who are academic experts, lecturers, senior lecturers, academics, researchers. Let them go through the questionnaire and see whether everything is okay, because sometimes you may not see some things which are wrong with your questionnaire. You may not, but these experts will be able to point out that this thing is not right, this thing is not good, you have to change this, you have to add this. Apart from the academic experts, you can also look for industry-based experts. Industry-based experts, I'm talking about, for example, you look for project managers, you look for construction professionals to also look at this questionnaire and approve it. I would recommend, for the sake of time, you can look for about 2 or 3, 4 people. I think that would be great. There's no standard number as to the number of people that you can send this thing to for them to check. It could even be one person, just to get feedback. Okay, so if your area is finance, you look for bank managers, you look for academics who are into banking and finance. If your area is about energy and gas, or gas and energy or whatever, you also look for experts in that area as well. Now that you have received approval from all these experts and everything, the next thing is for you to distribute. And the distribution, you go to a printing house, they'll print this, and then you share them, and then you get your responses, as many as you can. But nowadays, I don't really recommend people, because now almost everybody is online. Like everybody, we have become a virtual reality. We all live in the virtual, in the air, or we live in We live on the internet, kind of. So I will encourage you rather to generate a link that will make people fill your questionnaire online instead of printing hard copy document and going around. I'm not against that. It's doable, it's good, it's fantastic based on your condition. But I recommend that you do more of the online. So let's assume that online. How do I go about the online? So the online, that will take us to some platforms that can help us to put this questionnaire there and generate a link. And then we share the link to our potential participants or respondents, and they will respond to the questionnaire. So one of them is called Microsoft Forms. Those of you who have access to Microsoft, or you use Microsoft a lot, there is a Microsoft Forms that can help you to generate this. You can also use what we call Google Forms, and I will teach you Google Forms today. You can also use what we call Qualtrics. Qualtrics is also another platform. And then you can also use what we call, which I think some of you have used in the past, and that's called SurveyMonkey. 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 So you can use SurveyMonkey or Google Forms or Qualtrics or Microsoft Forms or any other platforms. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to use Google Forms. Okay, so let's go. So this Google Forms, when you come to if you open your Google, you have Google, you just search for the forms. Yeah, here. If you have a Google account, I mean, when I say Google account, I'm talking about if you have a Gmail. If you have Gmail, you just have to search for this and you see forms. So search for forms. On the forms, when you open, it will open something like this for you. Then you click on blank form. Like it will give you this open check, like something that you have not used, open. Now you need to give it a title. You need to give it a title. Good. So if you want to give more description about it, you can do that. But if not, what you can do is that from here, you can start putting in your preamble. You can just give it a brief description. But if you don't want to give the brief description, you can go ahead and then, or another thing too is that you can leave this and come here, this section, and put your preamble. So I'm going to put just an example. Okay, so I can put this one here as my preamble so that anybody who will see this can easily read what the study is about. Okay, now the next one is the informed consent. So in this informed consent section, change this to paragraph. You talk about, at the end of the day, I'll have yes or no rather. So, yeah, in this informed consent section, you give a description of what you want the people to know or to understand. I'm talking about in terms of the number of minutes. You also assure them that the study will not be used against them, and so forth and so forth. Okay, then you give options like, yes, I want to participate, or no, I don't want to participate. I don't want to participate. So after they have read everything, okay, they have to choose one, whether they want to participate or they don't want to participate. What next? The next thing is that if somebody say yes, the person can continue. But if somebody say no, I don't want to, then that means the person cannot continue this survey. So what do? So two things. You click on this, you click on this, and then you add this. So you click on this small, can you see? Probably, you can see. I'll come back to another thing. You click on this, and it will give you description, go to set based on answer and all that. You click on go to section based on answer. So you click on that. And then yes, if yes, that means the person should continue. So you have to do this. If yes, the person should continue to the next section. And if no, the person should submit. Because if somebody says no, I don't want to participate, then that means the person cannot continue answering the listing. So you click on submit form. Okay, and that will be the end of it. Then you have to make almost all the questions or most of the questions compulsory. So required here means compulsory, but if you don't want to, but to me it's always good you make it compulsory so that the person will not, even though the person says no, then still, because if you leave it as not required, the person can say no and the person can still go to the next section. But if you make it required, once the person answer, it will take the person to the end of it. Okay, so that's it. So what's the next thing? The next thing is to add another section. And this section, this is where we are going to look at the basic information about the participants. So what do? I'm going to add questions. And one of the questions that I'll add from my questionnaire is that what is your highest educational qualification? I'm just going to do about 2 of them because for the sake of time. Yeah, I can't do all. The rest, please, you can do it at your own time. So what is your highest educational level? Will be the first one. And then you have to give the options. So something like primary school certificate, high school certificate, higher degree. With a higher degree, you can add. Is there somebody who is coming in? With a higher degree, you can add. I mean, it depends on how you can. I mean, break these things down, but it's up to you as to how you want to do it. You can have an option for only bachelor's, master's, doctorate, a diploma, professional certificate, etc. Yeah, so I have this. Here too, you can also make it what compulsory, required, so that all of them will answer. Anyone who wants to take part. Now I'm going to my next question. So still in the same session. Remember, this is session 2. Still in the same session. Still in the same session. I can add. As I said, I'm just going to do 3 of them. I will not do all. Like, what sector which the following describe the sector of your green building sector? Just an example or whatever. I will just describe your sector. Just an example. So, for example, maybe private sector, public sector, mix. So I'm also going to make this one compulsory as well. What's the next thing? The next thing is the next question. And the next question is, please specify your position. In other words, what's your position? Yeah. I'm just trying to look at time. We have about 22 minutes to go. Yeah, we can. I'm hopeful we can cover this. What is your position, like your job title? It depends on how you have designed your listing. So once again, I want to say this again. So everything depends on you. You have to. One good thing about the Google Forms and all the other survey platforms is that you have the option to choose the kind of answers that you want your respondents to give you. So if the answers are in the form of multiple choice, you have to select that. If you want them to write short answers, if you want them to write paragraphs, drop down, multiple choice, which I will be coming there very soon. And the rest is up to you. If you do want them to rate, it's a linear scale, whatever, you have the choice to let them do that. So your position, maybe I am the CEO, I'm a security guard. I'm just saying, just an example, just something. I'm the finance officer, project manager. I'm the QS, quantity surveyor, and the rest. So is that okay? So that is about the basic information. Now the next thing is you create another section, and this will be the section 3, and this is where the actual drivers thing will come in. Drivers. So this is where your this thing will come in. Okay, so here I'm going to create my question. I'll go straight to the point. There's no need for me to do a description, but if you want to give a description too, you can do. So here, depending on the kind of table I have, I'm just going to copy. Well, let me try and remove something so that it will be easier for me to copy. Put all the pictures together. You can also break them down. Okay, it's all about you. Style, it's the style. You can also put them, you can leave them as they are. I mean, I'm talking about the categories. You can leave them as they are. It all depends on you. It's up to you as to what you want to do. You can ask questions on only the political factors, questions on economic factors, questions on social factors, questions on political factors. But I'm just going to put everything together as one. Okay, so I have this. You want to copy this one and say that please respond to the questions and factors influencing on the scale of 1 to 7 or scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is strongly disagree, 1 to 5. 2 is disagree. 3 is neutral. 4 is agree. And 5 is what? Strongly agree. Okay, so here you need to choose the kind of grade that you type. You can use a multiple choice grade. The multiple choice grade will give them the options to choose many, like maybe you want them to take out of 1 to 5. They have options to take 2. They have 2 options, or they have 3 options, or they have all the options. They can take all of them. But I will go for the tick box grade. So here I'm going to just paste all the factors I selected from and this in here, and then specify that 1 disagree, 2 3 is what? Neutral. 4 is agree, and then 5 is strongly agree. So these are the columns and these are the rows, just like how you saw it in this thing. I also make this one compulsory as well. Okay, so that's it. Now I go to, so you see that it automatically generate this, as we all know it and as we always see it. Okay, then if that's the end, let's assume I'm just concluding because it's fine that you can do the rest. So if this is the last part, this should be like the thank you for taking part in the survey. This you can just the end section, also whatever you want to put here, whatever. Or if there's another additional information, or you want to say that, if you can also say that if in case they have any additional thing that they want to add, whatever. This will be the ending section or the end section. Thank you. Anything you want to put here. So I'm done. So once you are done, the next thing is to publish it. And then generate, once you publish, you can generate the link. Or another way is that once you publish it, you can come here and copy the link anytime. Once it's published, you can copy responder link anytime. So this is where you copy the link. So I'm going to copy this link and I'm going to share it in the chat box if any of you have access to it. you can quickly look at it and tell me whether it's okay or not, or there's an issue or something. So I'll put it in the chat box if you have access to it quickly. Check. Yeah. Okay. So that's it. Any question from anyone? Any question?
Doc,
Yeah.
Doc, please, I want to ask about the sample size.
And the sample
Is
size.
it
Okay.
yeah, how are we going to decide on the number of people?
Okay. The sample size. There is a formula to generate a sample size. And I have done that in, I think, 2 or 3 of my papers. If you check, there is a formula there. I can also share that article with everyone. That is one approach of getting to know the sample size. So there are mathematical formulas that will help you to determine the sample size by knowing that if I get this sample size and above, then it's representative or it's good enough for me to continue. Okay, and some of them base this statistical analysis on the number of variables that you are dealing with. Some base it on other things. So that's one approach. That's by using mathematical or statistical formula to determine the sample size. Another approach, which also other scholars have also used, is that they compare with similar studies in the same field. So, for example, if your studies about green finance or your studies about green buildings, and if you look at all the studies that people have conducted in that area, most or majority of the studies use a sample size, which are like, let's say, 120. Then when you are going to conduct a study on a similar topic or in a similar area, you cannot use any sample size below that. Okay, so if majority of the previous studies in that area use 120 or more, then you cannot use less than 120. So that's the second approach. So the second approach is for you to compare. So for you to do that, what you have to do is you have to get some studies in that area. I'm going to show you. I've done both in my previous studies. One of the studies I did that. And I compare. So if you come to methodology section, good. So this is what I did. So the number of responses, we ended up having 182 responses. The respondents work in different fields, such as okay, the response rate is 44%, which is considered appropriate compared to response rates of 20% and 14% respectively. The other way, like I tried to our response rate in terms of the sample size, which at the end of the day, we had 182 compared to some other studies. In this context, I compare with 2 other studies in the same area. They had a response rate. They did similar surveys, and they had response rate of 20% and 14%. And we having 44%, then that means ours is better. Ours is okay. So our sample size in this context is justified because we ended up having a higher response rate than what the previous studies had. Okay, so you can compare your studies with the previous ones in terms of their response rate and even the sample, the number of responses that they received. If yours is better than them, then it's okay. If not, then you need to do more, get more responses. Another approach is for you to use mathematical formula, which, as I said, I've done that in one of my previous studies. If you check one of my studies, I did that. I think it will be this study, I'm sure. Yes, this is the study. So in this study, for example, the sufficiency of these, we had a response rate of 287. And I argue that these 287 surveys were representative enough. Why? Because if you apply the statistical formula based on the variables and all that, the minimum response rate we should have attained to undertake this 61 based on the statistical formula. So if you get 61, any response rate of 61 and above is acceptable. But even in our case, we got even 287, which is far higher than the 61 based on the statistical formula. So these are the two approaches. These are the two methods that you can look at to justify the sample size or the responses that you get for your questionnaire. Yeah. Any other question? Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Doc, my answer is up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Doc. So we started by reviewing some few articles before we went to the questionnaire section. But
Yeah.
I didn't get clearly how the literature we reviewed informs the design of the questionnaire.
Yeah, so the literature review is where you pick the most important studies, and then out of the important studies you extract the variables that you will use for the questionnaire. So for example, I mentioned that based on the example I have shown you today, I decided to look at something like green finance for green buildings. So I went into the literature, I searched for articles, and I decided to just rely on one paper. It doesn't mean you have to rely on one paper. You have to compare the studies, extract variables, and even the variables, you need to compare, reshape, refine them, refine. And then you settle on the most relevant variables that are related to your topic, or that will help you to answer your research questions. Once you are fine with your variables from the literature review, the variables that you extracted from the literature review, now you can go ahead and put them in the questionnaire. Normally, this is done, or you have to do this with your supervisor, which in this case is going to be me.
Okay, so Doc, mostly what I used to do is to design the to answer my research questions. I don't know whether.
So how did you come about designing it? Where did you get the variables from?
So I get the research questions out of my research objectives, and based on what response I want to give to the research questions, I make out
the same thing that I'm saying is the same thing. But what I'm helping you to do is, it is always good you back them with literature instead of just, because I know what you are talking about, and in the past that's what all of us we used to do.
Okay.
You just put in some questions and some things. They are more generated by you. You generate them yourself.
Yes.
And if somebody asks you, where did you get that thing from? I think you find it difficult to answer.
Okay.
So the best approach is get literature, get some studies where if somebody asks you, you can point them to and say that, okay, I read this paper and I got my information from this, or I retrieved the variables from here, or even if it's the questions, I retrieved the questions from here. It's based on this paper. It's based on this literature I read. That has informed my questions. That has informed my variables. Yeah, I get what you are saying. In the past, that's what all of us we used to do. But when you do it that way without any literature backing what you have done, what is going to happen is that sometimes when you get to either getting to the end or when you have gone deep into the work, you start seeing some loopholes and some challenges. You start facing some challenges. Yeah, so to me, the best approach, get it right from the beginning.
Okay,
by
Doc,
getting.
so if I understand you properly, is the literature supposed to help me to identify the right gaps for my variable?
Exactly. That's the purpose of the literature. One, to help you to identify the right gaps. I also help you to identify the right variables to fill the gaps.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. So to me, that's the best approach. It's always good to have something backing you, because if you don't have something backing you and anybody asks you questions later on, it will be like the thing came out of your own intuitions and what you think and what you know and what you believe. But that's not how research works. It's not about what you believe and what you know and what you have experienced. That's why it is called empirical studies. You must have something backing. There must be empirical evidence. There must be something backing whatever you are doing. And to do that, get it right from the beginning by going into the literature, identify most relevant papers, read them, identify the most important things from there. And then even if you have some experience or you feel that you are right about whatever, and truly you may be right. You may be right about whatever you feel or whatever you know, but you still must have something backing, because as far as research and empirical studies is concerned, we don't, well, I mean, and that's also an aspect of it which is more qualitative. But the issue of I believe, faith, and all that is good. It has its position or place, which is more related to the interpretivist philosophical position in research. But if you are ready to do quantitative, which is positivist, realist philosophy, then we prefer empirical evidence just than what I believe and what I think. There must be something to support you. Okay, any other question from anyone? Okay, if there's no question, then our time is up. We will meet again in 2 weeks and continue. So within these 2 weeks, what we are going to do is that I will make sure we all finalize. Those of you who don't have topics, we will make sure we finalize our topics. And those of you who already have your topics, start working on it and start extracting important variables for your work. For example, somebody like Emmanuel Auji, I've received your variables. Yeah, I have told you to add some few stuff, which is good. For the rest of you, you can also look into that. If you need support or you need me to help, you reach out to me. I will help you because we need to work together. Don't work in isolation, and don't be afraid. This class is not like, I'm sorry to say this, but like my supervision is not this kind of, well, I'm not criticizing, but you know, like in Ghana, you are afraid to go to your supervisor. because you think you say something or you do something that will not make you happy, kind of. Yeah, that's not how we go about things here. So don't be afraid to approach me, ask me questions, and don't be in the dark. So come out if you have a question about whatever you are doing. If you don't understand something, get to me. And I'm going to send, I don't know whether I should send, because already many of you have seen some of these survey samples before, but all the same, I'll send it. Last time I said I was going to send it, I didn't, but I'll send it this time. I'll send a survey sample for you to look at it, for you to design yours. Yeah. Okay. If there's no question, nothing, the next time that we'll meet, I'll take you through the how to develop your conceptual and theoretical framework. That will be the next thing. And then from there, I'll come back to the PLS again. So the next time, theoretical framework, because in PLS and even structural equation modeling in general, the issue of conceptual framework and theoretical framework is very, very important. It's very key. And that's where we develop what we call our hypothesis. And then we go ahead to test the hypothesis. So we need to have a conceptual framework. We need to have a theoretical framework. And that's what I'll take you through the next time that we'll meet. Okay, thank you. Is there any question? Is there anybody's hand up? Okay, yes, Emmanuel, lastly, then last, and then we go.
Well, please, regards to studies. Is it important to get a framework in the study?
Yeah, yes, very important, especially with this structural equation modeling. 100% necessary. It's 100%. So next week, I'll take you through how to develop one for your work. Because we need to generate what we call hypothesis. And it's out of the hypothesis that we will test and get our results. Because the structural model, this is part of the structural equation modeling, is basically for that tests the hypothesis and give us answers as to whether our conceptualization is significant or is not significant, and blah blah blah. Yeah, we'll do that next week. Next time. Okay, any other person with any other question? Any person with any question? Okay, if no question, also don't forget that in our subsequent meeting, I'll take you through the moderation, how to do mediation and moderation. In a situation where you have a mediating variable and a moderating variable, how do you go about that? So they are all parts of the package. On that note, thank you very much for coming. It has been a great time. And please, I see some of you are not watching the videos because we are many here. And sometimes when I check, it's only about 10 people, 5 people who have watched the YouTube videos. You need to watch. You need to watch seriously. If you don't watch the videos, maybe I can't say much. It's up to you. And I've made it in such a way that you can watch it at your leisure time. So I don't know. You need to watch. As they say, practice make a person perfect. So as you watch them and you practice, you become perfect. Rachel, your hand is up. Can you talk? Yes, please talk. Hello, Rachel. Yeah, please go. Yes.
This Elvis. I'm using someone's account.
Hey, Charlie. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, Elvis, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing the link to in our platform too for us to join.
Yeah.
The question on the sample size for statistical adequacy for undertaking the SEM.
Yeah.
I came about the 10 times rule of thumb, right?
Yeah, that also work.
Yeah. Yes. But later on, I found out from one of our lecturers that that one is not the fundamental of determining the sample size, the minimum
Yeah.
sample size. So I was kind of baffled if there is any other, or we can carry on with that one. So if you can give
Okay.
clarification on that one.
Yes, thank you very much, Elvis. This is a very important question. I agree with what the professor said. To be honest, there is no, I always tell people this thing, there is no one way of doing things in research. Therefore, if you decide to take any path or any approach, you need to just justify it. So whether you use a 10 thumb rule or you use any other statistical method, there must be a reason for that. Once you are able to give a reason, or once you are able to justify it, that's it. So I will not say the 10 thumb rule is the best or any other method is the best. If I say that, I'm giving you wrong information, I'm giving you wrong advice. If the 10 thumb rule work for you, you pick it and you justify, you give reason or reasons as to why that is the best for the study that you are undertaking. But if you want to use any other method too, you must also justify it. With even respect to the sample size I was showing you, even the statistical methods, the one I showed you, there's so many of them. Even the one I showed you is just one of them. There's so many. So many. When you start searching, you see there's so many. So you have to choose one of them and you need to give a solid reason. A solid reason why it fits into your work. Once you are able to give that, that's it. So that's my answer for that. So don't really worry yourself much about that. If you think based on what you have read and based on what you are doing, if you think the 10 thumb rule work perfectly for your study, stick to that. Or if you think another method work for your study, stick to that. But what you have to do is justify it. Well, how do you justify it? You justify by, just like how I showed you the literature, you cite some previous studies by saying that so and so and so and so did this. And therefore, even with respect to what I showed you right now, if you look at what I mentioned, I even only used two. I used only two. I said we had 44%, and some previous studies had 20% and 14%. And that is why we think ours is better and therefore should be accepted. So we have given a justification, or we have compared it to some previous studies. So Elvis, stick to one. Because if I'm going to tell you that, oh no, maybe always use 10 thumb rule, it's a wrong advice. Or always use this. No, things don't work that way. As far as my experience is concerned. Thank you. Any other person with a question or
All right.
comment?
Oh, please. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
go
And
ahead.
a follow up on that one. So,
Yeah.
he was like, we shouldn't rely on other journals or articles that are published in journals. Probably they're published in journals that are having low impact factor or something like that or careful. So he said that we should, because it's an SEM, we should look at what Reagan actually talks about. It's who actually developed SEM. So
Yeah.
what he said is why we should actually base it on. So
Yeah, I agree with on that part. I agree. agree to a larger extent, or I mean, I always say almost agree 100%, in a sense that there are certain people or there are certain scholars who are known for certain areas. So, for example, if you take even factor analysis, or you take SCM, or you take regression, or you take probit, logit, whatever regression, whatever method that you are using, there are people who are known for advancing that method or that area. And therefore, if you are undertaking any study, it's better you cite those people. Secondly, with respect to the journal, I agree with him. I will, and that's why I'm showing you this. That's why I started by taking you guys through the literature thing. Don't use some low-key journals. I sometimes receive some articles from some of you students, and the journals that you have cited, they are not the best journals. Or they are, I mean, not that they are not the best journal, but you can see that they are articles which have been published in what we call predatory journals. Predatory journals are journals that they don't have any ranking, nothing is. So if I'm going to give you recommendation, all of you here in this class, if you are searching for articles, search for these articles from these journal hosting sites. A journal which is coming from Emerald. Any article from this group, if you see an article published by these people, expect it's good. Then the second one is Elsevier. Okay, most journals from, or I would say all journal articles from Elsevier. That's the second one. Then I'll talk about Sage. If you see an article where they have this logo, great. Then I'll talk about Taylor and Francis. Okay, also great. Then I'll talk about Springer. You see this. So for these ones I have shown, and then also, I mean, nature work with Springer. So yeah, nature work with Springer. So if you see articles coming from these sites, from these journal hosting sites, yes, they are good ones. Elvis, so I agree with him on that part, 100%, because sometimes you get some articles and predatory, predatory journals. Can you see my screen? Can you all see my screen? Some predatory journals, and they are talking about something, and the papers, you don't see the head and tail of the papers. And even sometimes some of these papers from some of these predatory journals, you read and they are full of mistakes. You see there's poor editorial work, no editing, nothing. Mistakes here and there. The English is some way. And they give a brief information about whatever you are working on. Please don't go to such things. And I know why people do that, because in most cases, when you are searching for articles from the ones I show you, Sage, Elsevier, Emerald, and Co., they are more of what we call paywall. When we say paywall, it's like you have to pay before you can get access to them, right? So people prefer the ones which are available. But I still will not encourage you to. So to do this, either you look for somebody who has access to them, maybe your friends in abroad, or you go to the KNUST online portal or something, somebody who can download, get quality papers, read quality papers. Yeah, because if you take something like Google Scholar, that's one of the things that people have cited against Google Scholar. Google Scholar accepts anything. So I'm just going to show you one. So like something like green finance. Something will come up soon. anything, like you see anything, anybody will just put anything there. I'm just trying to get one. Yeah, you don't see the head and tail of the paper. Oh, this one, I'm not seeing much predatory ones. Yeah, the thing just come up and it's not good enough. Anyway, I'm not seeing them, but I guess you see when you start searching. And normally they are open, they are just like open. Once you do this, like you search, you can easily get access to them. Yeah, so Elvis, I agree. Don't rely on predatory journals or journal articles. And also, if you are going to cite people who have done studies and they have that kind of track record, that they are good in that. So if it is Sam, the person that you mentioned, in addition to people like Christian Rengel, you are dealing with Sam, look for articles from this guy, like especially PLSM. You have to cite the works of this guy. Okay, so these are the people who are into SEM. Joseph Hare. Yeah, you don't have to cite any ordinary person. These are the people who have over 500,000 citations and 300,000 and 200,000 citations. These are the people that you have to cite because they are the gurus. They are the people who have done works in SEM. So yeah, any other person? I hope I've answered your question, Elvis.
Yes,
Any other
Doc.
question before?
Yes, Doc. Thank you very much.
Hello, Doc.
Yes.
Yes, so I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity.
You're
yes,
welcome.
to what my brother Elvis has said, I mean, and the feedback from his professor and your response, I wanted to say that in addition to what Doc has just said, in the area or if I listen to him very well like this, the professor's caution was actually based on area specific or context specific. So
That's
just
right.
like the professor said, there's no single way of doing one thing. So if you, at the end of the day, there are what we call the godfathers of every area. So you see that at the end of the day, you cannot use you can't use this, but look at what the founders of SEM have said, SEM have said, and follow that.
Yes.
So it means that someone else doing something in another area cannot go and follow the leaders of SEM to do their own. So that's where knowing who are the godfathers of each area is very important.
Important, yeah.
So I remember when I was in the undergrad, when we're doing something related to financial inclusion, and if you want to do any primary data, you want to do questionnaire financial inclusion, you don't have your study and go inside, it won't work because like they have a standard. Yeah, they've already developed something that is being accepted, and they are the leaders in that. And you have your paper, you haven't cited any of those guys, then that paper will not go through. So they mean that we need to understand who are the leaders in this field, and then we set those top papers. If you want to follow your questionnaire, you want to pick key construct and all of that, you pick from those people, you justify. So that comes back to the justification the Prof has spoken about. You justify. I'm doing ABC because I'm following this founder of SEM. I'm doing something on SEM, following him. And he said that maybe 2 people is enough, and I'm doing that. So that's what we call the justification. And anyone go to check and say, yes, the gurus, the area have done this, and then you are not coming, you are following them. So you are safe. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, that's a great addition. Thank you so much. Yeah. So for example, if we are dealing with something like methodology and even in general, this guy called Chris Well, he has written so many books and articles on. And Chris Well, I think many of you have seen him somewhere. Chris Well is very popular when it comes to methodology, whether it's qualitative or quantitative or mix.
Yeah.
He has a
It was one of the
even econometrics. Everywhere.
as econometrics. And our first year.
Everywhere.
His
Yeah,
books.
he's everywhere. It's well.
Yeah.
His books everywhere. So you have to follow these people, cite them, and use them for your work. You can't just fight anyone and then just say that you are doing whatever. Okay. Any other person? If there's no other person, I want us to bring the meeting to a close. And I wish everyone the best. Once again, reach out. Let's work on the topic. Start developing your questionnaire. And yeah. See you. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.